welcome to Free Cheese episode 480. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
Matt Zellner.
Hello.
Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. It should not need to be said, but in case you're joining us for the first time because the title of the episode attracted you, this season, and for the foreseeable future, every week on the podcast, we play and rank one video game on a big list that we call The List. You can follow along, see where your favorite game and ours ranks at thefreecheese.com/thelist. This week, Mass Effect 2 gets added to the list. But first I want to know, Matt, Mark, what's your favorite space fiction?
Space fiction, huh? So just like anything goes with this.
You know what's sad? Probably up until like 5 years ago, I would have said Star Wars, but because it's so diluted with shit now, it's not that.
You're saying diluted or overkill? What are you...
Both. The good stuff's been diluted by bad stuff.
I see, I got you, okay.
I don't know, first thing that comes to mind that's not Star Wars is Alien.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's probably the best answer you can get out of this. I was going to say Space Jam, just kidding.
That's intergalactic. That counts in my book.
No, first thing that came to mind was the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies.
Oh, I never saw those, but they were meant to
I
be
never
pretty
saw
good,
them
yeah?
either.
Actually, I don't hate them. It's actually pretty well done in my opinion. I know, like, you know, there's a meme of like lens flares and all that, but
Yeah.
That's any.
if you're able to have vision and look past that, from being blinded, not bad.
Were there
I would
two
love it
or
if
three
someone
of
went
those?
to that... I think
There were
two.
3 of them.
Oh, there were 3.
Mm.
Is there anyone who saw those movies and legitimately just saw nothing but lens flares? Like, walked out and just...
I'm sure. I feel like I've seen a lot of complaints or the movie get dragged because of that, and it's like, yeah, if you're looking for it, it's totally going to be whatever. But it's not different from a lot of games just
people.
using bloom, you know. It's
Yeah. For me, I think Green Lantern, specifically the 2011 Ryan Reynolds movie. No,
Oh.
I'm kidding.
No.
However, speaking of people being dumb, that movie is not as bad as people said it was. Put that out there right now. Was it Dark Knight levels of good? No. Which, of course, was, you know, the comparison at the time.
right.
But it was fine.
Like that movie felt like it should have came out maybe 10 or 20 years prior.
Yes, exactly.
So it has that level of like cheesiness, but you can still like kind of
Sure.
appreciate it in a way.
Yes. Yeah, we were at a point where we were past what that movie was, but it was fine. It's totally serviceable. Watch it now.
Yeah.
You don't need to... Mark and I just had this conversation via text message. You do not need to chase everything just because it's current right now. So go backwards, hang out in Green Lantern's world, have a good time. That's not what I mean, though. What I mean by Green Lantern is the comic books. Specifically, I think,
that's pretty
like most modern Green Lantern fans, the Jeff Johns run of things really made that character and that kind of world one that I cared about. But I found a new, deeper appreciation, too, with the 2016 DC... What do they call that? Rebirth. When they did Green Lanterns. So Sam Humphries wrote Green Lanterns, and it was the 2 young rookie Green Lanterns, Jessica and Simon. And it was very good. Very, very, very good. It kind of picked up where Jeff Johns' stuff left off and went in a new direction. Very, very well recommended. And I bring up Green Lantern because it was Green Lantern that turned my opinion on Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2, specifically. This game I was not loving. And then suddenly I stopped and said, what if this was a Green Lantern story? And then everything kind of clicked into place. And I
did that with
into
Red
it. Yeah, what was the Red Dead one?
I pretended John Marston was Rick Grimes.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Matt, have you had that before with a game where you kind of let your head canon become the game canon?
Cyberpunk 2077. Mark from Poland.
Yes.
Hi.
I think it's important to apply your own world sometimes.
I don't know how to say hi in Polish, and I should.
Oh, yeah. It's probably close to Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Привет. Just say that. You'll be fine. Matt, you added Mass Effect 2 to our list.
Sure did.
Why?
Well, you see, when I added it way back in the day, I didn't realize I don't think I understood the concept of the list until after I added this game. So, in hindsight, I would like to say I'm sorry for making us play like a 25 to 30 hour RPG for this. So there's that. But the other reason I added it to the list, this is probably it is. It's probably my first BioWare game I saw from front to back. I had played a bunch of KOTOR at this point, but I played Mass Effect 2 in college. Of course, when you have a lot more, time
Sure.
as an individual. But I fell in love with this game back then. I got on PS3. That was all I had. So because Mass Effect was originally published by Microsoft, I never got to play the first game. It was when EA bought the rights for Mass Effect. After Mass Effect 2 had been out for a bit, they then released Mass Effect 2 onto PS3 with the updated visuals that were about to happen for I think, coming later that year or in a year, Mass Effect 3. So the PS3 kind of got this weird, kind of like the best package you could get in a way, because it came with all the DLC, which I didn't realize I was playing some of the DLC stuff until after. I kind of beat it and looking back on different decisions I could have made or whatever. But no, I kind of just rewinding back here a little bit. I absolutely fell in love with this game. It got me real excited to play Mass Effect 3, which I would play not right at release date, but not too far after it, which I enjoyed for its issues, especially with the end. But no, I remember this was something this was that game in college that I always remember playing at that specific point of college, and kind of launching me into looking forward to more BioWare things, just for me to be probably disappointed in the not so distant future.
Have you gone and played? I know you're alluding to Andromeda, but Dragon Age. Have you gone down that path at all?
So I never played Dragon Age because I've said it multiple times. I've never been the big fantasy I don't want to say Dungeons and Dragons, because that's so
I know.
Yeah, but I'm not a big I'm not big into that kind of fantasy. I'm not saying that if I ever actually played it, I would probably get into it. There's definitely IPs that have maybe it, like Game of Thrones. I enjoyed the whole ride of Game of Thrones. Dark Souls, although it's more dark, it definitely leans that way.
Sure.
But I like the lore going on in Dark Souls as well. So, I don't know. It just at an entrance level, I'm not real big into it. But I'm sure if I played it, I would get into it.
Dragon Age was the one when I bought a PS3. I was trying to find what games to play, and the biggest recommendation was get Dragon Age. It's the best game ever made. You're gonna love it, and I too, yeah. Honestly, those hard fantasy and hard sci-fi things, I really have a tough time aligning with, and I bounced off Dragon Age hard. But it was because of that I think for a long time, when people started really recommending Mass Effect, I was like, oh, it's the same people that made that Dragon Age game, and I don't like that. Mark, how about you? This was your first time playing Mass Effect as well, right?
Basically, I tried the first one way back, and all I heard about that series was like, hey, you make all these big choices, and they matter, and they made it seem like you can kind of do anything. And I didn't want to be a Spectre, but I didn't realize that was hard coded into the story. You don't have a choice, and then I stopped playing. and then I played Dragon Age for a little bit. But,
did you like Dragon Age?
So I'll get into it with Mass Effect, but I will say that like now that I know about EA's acquisition of BioWare being a thing, you can definitely smell it between 1 and 2 with both Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Like Dragon Age 1, Mass Effect 1 play very similar, I feel. And once you jump into 2, it's like Dragon Age is completely different. It's like more action oriented and plays very differently.
Yeah, that's the big shift, I think, from, like, you just said it. Like, it's traditional RPG to action RPG, which I think is a trend at the time this Mass Effect 2 comes out. I'm sure the other Dragon Age games as well.
Yeah, but I didn't mind Dragon Age, though. Like, it was fine. I learned that if you're being a mage, you have a more interesting story, I feel. Because there's a whole lore about, like, blood magic being a banned thing, and you can choose to learn that if you want, and that's a whole thing. But
I do.
Yeah,
teach me the way of the blood.
Might be worth checking out if you do go to try that. But yeah, Mass Effect. All my friends loved it. They were playing it and wouldn't stop talking about it. It kind of deterred me from playing it back then. I just didn't. I wasn't even in the headspace to play something like this. Like, I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of the games that were popular at the time. So like Mass Effect, Fallout, Assassin's Creed for the most part. Just like
this was the BioShock era.
Yeah, like even that I didn't even really touch. It was just like a lot of I just missed the train on, and then I just kind of lived vicariously through everyone else just talking about it, even though I didn't know what was going on. So I just never had an interest until now, and I even did some extra credit. I played Mass Effect 1 to prep for 2.
I mean, you say extra credit, but that's a whole fucking 30-hour game as well, so...
But I did it in 11. Because I didn't do any side quests. I just went for just the main story. No bullshit. But yeah...
So that was the part... That's the part for me that I think... ultimately was a bummer about playing this game in this format is I do feel like I missed a lot. Now, the listeners might say, hey, idiot, why didn't you just start playing it a year ago? You guys built this list a super long time ago. And I would say, hey, listener, I did back in June. But I really did not like this game. Up until this week, maybe? Like, I just... I don't know. I don't know if it's too soon to jump into that side of things or not. Maybe we set the stage a bit. I think, yeah.
I do want to just throw out the disclaimer. Like, the same reason why I put Metal Gear Solid 2 instead of 1 is because this was the first one I played. And Mark has actually played more of Mass Effect 1 than I have. I tried playing Mass Effect 1 when it was eventually released on PS3. I think after Mass Effect 3 is out. I don't remember the timing of all that. But I did not like Mass Effect 1 all that much. I got to a point in the story where you have to choose between one or two characters, which is also a thing I'm going to bring up here, that comic. It's also that decision as well. I got to that point, or I think right before that point, somewhere in that mission, and that's like the last thing I remember playing. So like I made a chunk into the game. It was just something about it I didn't like, and I think it was because it wasn't so action RPG, which I'd already been used to with Mass Effect 2, and like I said, I think 3's already out at this point. I've played it. So so Mark has played probably more Mass Effect 1 than I have.
Well, by play, if you mean I just rode more elevators than anyone ever
saw
has
the
in
end
their
of that
life.
game.
Yeah, it's if you love elevators, check out Mass Effect 1.
Should boot my PS3 up and see how far I got into that game and what my hour count was. But no, that
elevator action.
And then the other reason for like I felt okay putting Mass Effect 2 instead of 1 on this list is because of the interactive comic by Dark Horse, where it's not right away. There is like the first little opening bit of Mass Effect 2, and then there's a good kind of like part to interrupt the story, and then you're presented this interactive comic. And it's about, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes long, maybe 20. I'm forgetting the actual length, but like it guides you through like the main bullet points of Mass Effect 1. It actually has you make some major decisions that you would end up having to do in Mass Effect 1 in those major missions. And then that's like a cool way of bringing over progress from Mass Effect 1 that you'd never played to Mass Effect 2, and that was very handy for PS3 players who had no access to Mass Effect 1 on that console. So that was also why I was okay picking Mass Effect 2. And really, if you take time when you're talking to a lot of people, like you can say like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" and it kind of gives you enough context to like, oh, this is someone or an event from 1 that they were talking about. And if you really want to go digging, you have the codex and all that stuff that really gets into the nitty-gritty detail of the world and galaxies all around you. One of which is like mentioned briefly in this game and ends up being like a crucial part of Mass Effect 3. I don't know how much they get into in Mass Effect 3, but indoctrination is something they pop up very quickly on the codex, and that is a real fucking thing in Mass Effect 3. It's a big event, it's a big deal in Mass Effect 1 because of what happens with Saren, but yeah, I think Mass Effect 3 has an even bigger impact. Anyway, that's why I chose 2. That was a long-winded way of saying that.
I think it was the right call. I mean, it's better than choosing 3. And from what Mark's described, it sounds better than 1.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked 2 over 1 for sure.
For this podcast episode, I imagine we have listeners who love Mass Effect 2, are here to hang out and hear what we think about it. I also imagine there might be people who are just tuning in because it's this week's episode, who maybe have or have not played Mass Effect 2. We will definitely talk spoilers at some point because we try to finish every game that ends up on this list. This was one where I was like very much wanting to tap out earlier on, and when Matt told us internally, hey, the reason I put this on the list is because of the final mission, I knew I had to see it all the way through, right? Like some of the games you can kind of get a good feel for, you understand what it is, and then maybe you can fill in the gaps with gameplay video or something like that. Depending on the games we've had on this list. Some of them, like, You just know it's an arcade-style game, you know what it feels like, whatever. Seeing all the way to the end is not necessarily going to change your opinion if you don't like it. Maybe it could, whatever. There's arguments for both sides of it. This was one, though, where it was like, you gotta get through. So, in that vein, we definitely are going to talk about the final mission in Mass Effect 2. Kind of who lived, who died for each of us, because I'm curious to see how it shook out for each of you. And I know we've got some specific questions to kind of lead the way on our conversation here. This one, yeah. Do you want to... Matt, are you approaching this more from this time around playing, or are you hearkening back to your first time playing? Like, did you love this right away? What kind of pulled you in? I guess, yeah, like back then, what was the thing that immediately grabbed you?
It was... I mean, one, I played it because it was kind of talked about as being like this fun action RPG with all your choices, and I knew it was the people that did Knights of the Old Republic, which again, I didn't beat it, but I remember liking and playing whenever I played it. No, I think it's like once right away. This time around is a little bit different because I know how the story pans out, at least in this, and as a whole, because I played Mass Effect 3. But like it's kind of you're kind of thrown into it a little bit here. One with the sudden, just straight up death of Shepard in like the first 15 minutes is wild. So there's that, and then I don't know, like kind of you get through that initial part with the Cerberus shit, but then like you go to that first colony and like there's these weird alien creatures just kind of kidnapping humans, and it's weird. And I think just that mystery of like who's doing this, why are they doing this, where are they going, and all this stuff kind of sets up. And like I don't necessarily know who the elusive man is back then, right? Like. But he immediately seemed shady, and you just kind of like, how's this going to fold? And then I knew decisions were on, based on this. So like, I was just kind of curious where my path would kind of take me, how it all shakes out. And then, I don't know, as I played it, it shifted from like wanting to see what happens with the collectors to like, oh, I actually kind of care about, I would say about 2/3 of my crew, not all of them, of course, but about 2/3 of them. So, like, doing our loyalty missions did not feel like a chore. Like, I actually was like invested into learning some paths or helping them get revenge or and stuff like that. And I would say, like, knowing that was my experience last time, it kind of happened again, and sadly, it was like the same characters I ended up caring about. Like, I didn't change that much as a person, I guess, but like, again, I got genuinely like. I was like, oh, right, that happens to this character. But, let's go fucking kill that asshole or something. I don't know, I kind of fell back in love with the Normandy and the crew again on my way throughout this. And that was kind of the driving fact because, we won't get into it, but my first playthrough, I lost some people in that suicide mission, and I kind of wanted to get revenge for it this time around and do it right. I didn't necessarily do it perfectly this time, but I did it way better.
And Mark, did you have a similar thing where what drew you into going all the way through to? Like, what kept you in? What attracted you to the game first? I know it's a little bit different because you and I were handcuffed to the game, but what was?
So, because of this, though, the podcast kind of dictated a little bit of how I approached this series. So yeah, I wanted to rush through that first one. So in order to do that, I had picked. I guess I have to give context on my character a little bit here. So Alan Shepard. He was, he was raised on ships his whole life. His parents were in the Alliance. They're military heads, and so it was just it just made sense for him to follow his footsteps. And then he went on some mission. Yeah, I think he was the sole survivor, but he was willing to basically do anything to get the mission done, even if it costed lives. It didn't matter. Yeah, he grew up to be a very cold person. He's an infiltrator, so he was mostly a sniper. So throughout one, because I just stuck to the mission, I didn't give a shit about anyone else or what help they needed. I was like, you're on your own, whatever. I got my own thing. I can't help you. I can't be there for everyone. So because of that, that's how I got through the game in like 11 hours. And then there was supposed to be sorry, what was the question again? My approach to this whole thing?
I guess like
yeah,
like I'll wait to connect everything together. But what was the thing that kind of kept you going? Like what attracted you to Mass Effect?
So yeah, basically building this character and kind of role playing it was the reason I wanted to kind of see it through and see where I end up and how it lands. So one, I just kind of did my own thing and went with it. So that's why he's, very cold, cut a lot of fat out of that game. And then transitioning to 2, things change. Again, I will say it is mostly for podcast reasons, but I've made it work with his story. So, yeah, that was kind of my motivation for the whole
in a
thing.
way, so you can change. You're allowed to change. You died.
Right, exactly. And don't worry, it plays a part. I made sure that counted, and definitely whatever mistakes I had made in the first one started to get redeemed in the second run.
Well, and that was kind of what I found out in playing, because I started it and I did not like the text choice. I didn't like making the choices in the game. I felt like they were all very similar, I don't know. I didn't identify with the character or the I don't know. It just, nothing felt like it mattered to me. Like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll say this. By the end, you kind of figure out like which area on the dialogue wheel leads to a certain choice, or kind of, maybe. But I didn't like that, and I just kind of wanted. There was so many choices I had to make early on that I didn't really know what the impact was going to be, and I didn't really know who my character was or who I should be. That I really just wanted the game to tell me a story rather than me try and dictate stuff. And it also kind of like, I really did not like the disjointedness of the characters just kind of like awkwardly talking and then freezing and like staring at you while you wait to make a choice.
I kind of feel the opposite, only because I'm a victim to Telltale's games where you just have a timer and you have to pick something within like those 5 seconds, and it's like,
comparatively, I much would prefer this version of it. And then when you get into combat stuff, I don't like, and I still don't think by the end of it I got more used to it, so I think I liked it, but I never really liked shooting in the game. Like, I never felt like I was actually, I don't know, doing well. Or
I would say this was the area of opportunity for me this time around. I think I've always glorified Mass Effect 2 gameplay, and I don't know how much of that is like remembering Andromeda now. Or 3. Although like 3 is very similar. I think they have cooler shit to use in 3, like as far as powers and stuff. So I don't know. I think I got blended somewhere, but it's like a very, I mean, for those that don't know, it's a very stiff, like, Gears of War movement. Gears of War. It's like they wanted to make Gears of War, but didn't. Minus the chainsaws and more with force powers. That's kind of what this is.
Yeah. But 1 is definitely more stiff, believe it or not.
Yeah, that was another reason why I did not like 1 either.
Yeah.
The other part that initially really kind of, like, I don't know, grated on me was there was a part pretty early on where, and this is back 5 months ago playing this is not like, oh, I'm under a time crunch to finish this game, I gotta whatever. This was back then, and I felt this. There was a point where like I had to like walk all the way through a level to talk to somebody, then walk back. It was just like moving around where it was like, it just felt, in hindsight, they want you to see the world. They want you to like interact with the spaces you're in. So I see why they did it. But I remember at the time, it just felt clumsy. I felt clumsy moving through. I just felt like I could never move quickly enough to talk to people or get to where I wanted to go in these areas. And in the end, I see that that's intentional, and you're meant to want to live in this world. And by the end, honestly, I did. I felt bad that I had to rush so far through, but like both of you, I kind of fell into my character and felt like, hey man, I don't have time to talk to you. I don't have time to go and figure out what happened on that other planet. I don't have time to go kill that guy with you because I got to stop the collectors. I got to figure out what I got to do.
I feel had I jumped into this one first, I think I would share some similar opinions with you about the like exploration and whatnot. But man, like jumping from 1 to 2, like you learn to appreciate a lot of 2 with its details and nuances, because exploring the Citadel in the first one, Hot damn, that is a mess. It's like being in a mall you've never been to before, and you're trying to find that one store, and you don't know where the hell. Like it was a mess. So it's a lot more simplified this time around, and having a map also is very helpful.
The big thing for me, I realized partway through, was this literally happened while I was playing the game. I was wearing a sweatshirt, and it was too hot. And I was mad that I was hot for like way longer than it should have been. And then I just took the sweatshirt off and was like, oh, maybe I need to take off the sweatshirt in Mass Effect 2. Maybe I need to stop getting in my own way and stop putting these artificial things around me that are stopping me from enjoying the game, and figure out how to enjoy it. And that was when I think I started to think like, if this were a Green Lantern story, this would be really cool, right? Because that's a spacefaring world and character and stuff that I enjoy. So why can't I enjoy this? And it was really just like I was getting in my own way. I was making myself uncomfortable playing it rather than just having a good time and liking it for what it was. And it was exactly then when I stopped caring about how the shooting didn't feel and really focused more on who are these characters I'm talking to, what are their stories, where can I go and what can I do with them? And that was the stuff where you start to do the loyalty missions and get to know them a little bit better. Wandering around these little areas. And I really loved how characters would just approach you and talk to you. And it's like, I know that they know Shepard probably from Mass Effect 1, but maybe not even. Maybe they just remember, right? Like Shepard is this kind of world, bigger, universal traveler that, you know, seemingly
it's an icon. It's an icon at this point.
And it makes sense that people would just approach and know who you are. And I think there's something cool and kind of enigmatic to the character that you never quite know everything this character's been, the journey that this Shepard has been on or will go on, right? And I'm glad that I ended up turning around on it, because I got to the point where I was like, maybe I should play the whole trilogy. Maybe I should do it and do it organically, right? Like sit down and play and actually make the choices. Have fun with it, because I did have fun in the end.
Well, there you go.
I was gonna say, like you were talking about like getting lost in the world. Like I remember being on Omega that first time playing this game. While like part of it was still trying to figure out getting my feet wet with it, because I don't think I realized like I had to go to a different part of the map to initiate the missions for Garrus and Morden there. But
yeah,
no, I remember like literally talking to everyone, acquiring all these side quests, like just kind of getting to know like, all right, Omega's a piece of shit kind of town, but I'm gonna try to help a couple people along the way. And then same thing on the Citadel. The Citadel, you know, I don't like the layout of the Citadel. I don't think I liked it then. I still don't like it now. But what's the Asari world? What's the one where you meet Liara again? I can't remember the name of that planet or town or whatever. Anyway, I remember being like lost there for a while too.
I couldn't find her. I knew I needed to find her to start moving forward with the like recruitment missions, but I could not find her at all. It was driving me nuts.
And I might be mixing it up because I think you've revisited a lot of these places in Mass Effect 3, obviously. But like I remember spending a lot of time in these places and like talking to everyone and doing all this shit. So yeah, like if you had the opportunity to invest more time, you might have gotten more out of the characters and maybe kind of, because I think playing this game right from 2, even with the comic, I think half your game is like you trying to catch up in terms of like where you're at lore wise and trying to figure out like, all right, what did, like you kind of said, like what happened in the past? How do we get to this point? Trying to relearn all that for yourself without like making it obvious your Shepard's not an idiot. And then progressing the story and trying to, you know, take out the collectors or get to know your crew. And I think that was the benefit of spending so much time in those areas, because you could talk to everyone, kind of do that option of like, what are you talking about? And then like they kind of tell you the event and relate it back to one of the main missions that the Dark Horse comic kind of talks about. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know about you, but when you go to that planet where Liara is, you go by this woman and she's like, I have a message for you, and then she starts talking like the ragtag queen. And if you don't know who the fuck that, like, it seems like the most out of left field thing ever. If you don't know, like, what that mission was from Mass Effect 1. So yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like the more you kind of took time to explore, the more you kind of got yourself caught up to where you are currently.
But it all still worked too, I think. Like, I never felt like, obviously, but I feel like even if you knew everything, you'd still feel like you were missing out on something. I think that's the nature of the character and how big this world, the Mass Effect world, not singular world, is.
Can I ask who's everyone's Shepard is, or is that a thing we're jumping into later?
Elaborate.
No, I mean, like I want to know about your characters. Like, who'd you pick? What class? Whatever.
So I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like, honestly,
I think you were an adept from what you told me when you started 5 months ago, and I was asking about it.
Sure.
Because that was the same thing I was. I was an adept, so that way I had to focus on powers, and then I was limited to like handguns and semi-automatic pistols.
I definitely had terrible guns and some powers, so that sounds about right.
Yeah, the guns, especially at first, until you start to get some upgrades on those or get the research for new ones, aren't great. But so I think that was the main spin. So I had the benefit of playing through this now twice. The first time, I definitely was like arms race. I might have been Infiltrator, the one you were, where I had a sniper. Did you have an assault rifle as well?
No. You get a semi-automatic in 2 and a pistol. And I think
then I might have just been a regular like soldier or whatever, because I definitely had an assault rifle. Okay. And I didn't have like I didn't lean too much on my powers. I usually lean more on my teammates for powers. This time around, I was like power person, and I lean more on my teammates for the guns or stuff along that nature. Yeah, then the first time through, you kind of, I guess you went Renegade and then Paragon, right? Mark, is that kind of what I got out of your transformation after you died?
I was definitely like Renegade in the first one, like full on, and then by the second one, I started to balance it out a little bit. I was starting to have points in both areas, but I was still a little more Renegade heavy than Paragon.
Just for the listener, I should have started with this. The choices, Joe kind of alluded to this before. Your choices impact like how your Shepard. There's like a meter in the pause menu where you can see if you're leaning towards Renegade or Paragon. It's pretty much like Paragon's good choices or good things in air quotes, and Renegade is like not. I don't want to say bad choices, but harsh ones.
It's like lawful and chaotic.
Yeah. And then, like, the more you kind of answer in one way, the more points you put into that one, and then that gives you the little, like, score or whatever you want to call it, attribute check to do certain decisions at certain times or make a certain dialogue choice. There's definitely times where I wanted to do the Renegade one, but I didn't have enough points at that time when I talked to that character. And you can see it's available, but it's grayed out. So that you kind of know, like, oh, you just didn't have enough at this point.
It was definitely fun doing the Renegade choices, or like a little quick time event might pop up, like, here, pull the trigger to do like.
Oh, I love pulling that trigger. Oh, I never clicked blue this time. Deck
someone in the face or something.
It was so good not clicking blue this time around. It felt real good. Joe, what did you end up kind of leaning towards?
I definitely leaned Paragon, but I was always kind of bummed out whenever I would do something that, like, text-wise seemed like I was saying what I would say, and then it would be like plus 10 Paragon or plus 10 Renegade points. I'm like, what? Like, there was one mission, I can't remember now if it was a recruit. I don't remember, but there was like some dude, and he was like kind of crouched down when we kind of walk into this big gunfight, and he's like, "Let me help you," and I was like, okay, I'm going to move up and you just like cover the back or something, was the text choice I picked. And it was like, renegade. And I was like, what? Okay, whatever. Dude wanted to help. What am I supposed to do? And then I died on that mission. So I restarted and I was like, let me try the other one. Like, the other answer is to tell him to stay back and not move because we don't want him to die. And then he's like, I'm going to do it anyway. And you're like, okay, fine, just cover me. So it's like the same outcome. Dude still does the same thing. It's just a matter of like what you say. There's
a lot of that in this game. And I found that out. I remember like some pivotal choices from my first playthrough when I was all Paragon that first playthrough until Mass Effect 3 when everyone was getting on my nerves in Mass Effect 3. But that in 2 though, I was like straight up Paragon trying to be as civil as I could. And then in this game, like I would remember like, oh, I remember what happens here. Let's see what the Renegade option does. Oh, the same thing kind of happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's it's that recruiting mission for Tali when she's stuck in that doorway and you're like between, a huge fucking robot thing and an army. Yeah.
The Geth like Colossus thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I made him stay back.
Yeah, this time around, like I said, I definitely lean Renegade to everyone but my crew. If it was anything relating to my crew, I was like Paragon, like trying to just balance it out. But when they started bickering with one another, the Renegade would come back out and be like, guys, shut the fuck up. Get along and move along. All right? We don't have time for this shit. That's kind of my thing. But yeah, definitely more Renegade this time, which was fun to let people pull the trigger or pull the trigger yourself and not have to deal with bullshit.
Like, for my character, like there were some things that I had to keep from 1 into 2. I had to keep it consistent. So like whenever you arrive to a new planet and it's taken over by like some little group or whatever, good or bad, and like they're like, hey, before you come in here, you need to check your weapons at the door. I'd be like over my dead body, like fucking try me.
Same.
Every time, even if the place is peaceful. Every time, I've always refused to like hand over my guns, and I always end up being able to keep them anyway.
Trust nobody, dude.
I think 1 resulted into a firefight because of it, but
yeah,
makes sense. That checks out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how we want to do. I think this episode is just going to go long because of the nature of the game. I had a couple questions. You want to do that before we kind of get into the end game?
Yeah, throw them out there. Because I think I've said everything. Like, you know,
we touched on gameplay. We touched on. I was gonna hit on the mission, like the actual like game structure before going into the suicide mission, because I think that obviously it has an impact. So I was gonna touch that there, but yeah, I think I hit everything I needed to talk about, or not needed, but wanted.
What was y'all Shepard's names?
Mina,
Matilda.
Mina and Matilda. Not bad. I just used my middle name, so just fucking Alan.
I made my character have resting bitch face to show like don't fuck with me. Who ended up being like your favorite squad member or crewmate? Ones that are playable, not like Kelly Chambers or Joker.
Okay. Well, because of 1, Tali definitely played a big part. But I think as far as like one of the more interesting characters to me is definitely Jack and Thane. Jack and Thane are kind of up there for me, but I think I'm a little more Thane heavy.
Yeah, I really like Jack and Kasumi. They were the ones I kind of like took with me all the time. I liked Jack's dialogue and stuff that like would be shouted in the middle of a gunfight, and Kasumi, I love just the cloaking abilities and stuff where she would zip around the map and just like take dudes out.
Yeah, that was very useful. I had her for quite a bit, but as an infiltrator this time around, you get the ability to cloak, but you couldn't teleport like she would. So, it was great that the AI would just somehow knew you were behind a closed door, and you could hear them preparing to shoot you. Still behind a closed door, I cloak, and they're like, "Lost sight of target. Don't know where he's at." It's like, how'd you know I was even here? Did you hear me fart or something? Like, damn.
Couldn't see me before or after.
Fucking.
Did yours change from first time to this time, Matt?
I was gonna say, I don't know. They may have heard your footsteps. If it's anything like Warzone 2, you can hear footsteps a mile away. No, I think it's unfortunate because I think it's just the nature of how you acquire people. But Garrus ends up being like my favorite.
Garrus is cool though. I definitely
like I like the mission to get him. I like the mission, his loyalty mission, and I just think like in dialogue, like when you bring him along and those, I don't know if you notice this. If you bring certain characters on certain loyalty missions, you get different optional dialogue stuff. Like when he chimes in, like it's stuff that like I would say, or it makes sense in context. He seems so level-headed, so he just ends up being my favorite. And I think part of that is because you just get him first, and you spend so much time with him, relative to like someone like Thane, who you get potentially so late.
Yeah.
See, that's funny because I feel like all the early missions, I brought Jacob and Miranda with me, and I hated both of them the whole time. They were just flat, uninteresting characters. I probably should have brought somebody else.
They never came with me anywhere. They just stayed on the ship. I didn't give a shit about either one of them.
Squad mate. I'll ask that question next. So then, who's your favorite squad makeup?
Weirdly enough, I did like Jacob, and I like doing Jacob's loyalty mission too. But
I was thinking more so like, was there like a go-to strategy with like why you pick certain people and stuff like that? Like, was there? Because I definitely had that by the end.
No. I mean, the final mission, you kind of have to make some smart choices, but every other thing, it was Jack and Kasumi because they both looked cool, were cool, and they were my friends. And it did work out that, like, Kasumi could go invisible. I felt like Jack was pretty aggressive in terms of, like, combat, so I always felt, like, pretty good, like, that I was gonna succeed in whatever mission I was in with Jack around, so...
She's definitely like a cooler 11 from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's basically the same backstory, but yeah, my squad makeup. Okay, so context. So there's a little more into bleeding from 1 into 2. Alan didn't have time for love on a battlefield.
Sure.
He didn't want any of his squad mates giving him lip. He just wanted people who would just come in, do the thing, get out. You know, no questions about it. Garrus was a little too much of a voice of reason. I was like, you got to go, man. You're too cool. You're too much of a good boy. I can't have you questioning my motives. So Rex was definitely in the forefront, but we had an issue, and I had to put him down.
Oh, so you made that okay?
Well, because if I didn't, then I would have been biased. And I had to show that I don't pick sides. And then Ashley was on my team because she was just a soldier through and through. She didn't give me a lip either. She was like, whatever you're doing, like, whatever you say, I'll follow. I was like, all right.
So I know what choice you made for that one then, too. All right, so I'm learning a lot about you without even asking the obvious questions.
Yep. And then she started calling me Skipper and started citing poetry all the time. And then I kind of learned she was low-key to big-key racist. And I was like, you know what? Actually, we might have to stop, whatever this is. But, like, her and I became a thing in one, and I regretted it the entire time. Because I started to, like, Alan started to catch feelings for Tally instead. But the options weren't there to make that a thing. But she was always in my squad. So in 2, I made sure that Tally was always in my squad. And then, like, Ashley wasn't around. By the time I saw her again, she was like, ew, you're working with aliens? That's gross. And she, like, broke up with me. And then I was like, no, join us. Like, we could use you. She was like, no. And then she sent an email and was like, you know what, babe, I'm sorry. Here's some more poetry. I was like, fuck you.
So, yeah, no matter how that mission goes, when you see Ashley on that colony, like, she's always cold. the first time around, I remember that distinctly because, like, I remember the choices. I was romantic with her and whatever, and then I see her in this game, in 2 the first time through, and then she's just like cold for no reason. She's like, "You working for Cerberus? How dare you?" I'm like, "I don't know. Just fucking pick me up out of the fucking sky."
Right. Yeah. She reflected. She got a little too real for me. So I was like, you know what, this can't be a thing. And plus, I had Tally with me. Like, you're saying all this shit in front of my new girl. So that picture frame in my room, as soon as I was able to romance Tally, the fucking picture frame of Ashley just was face down on the on the counter in my room. I was like, that's a nice touch. Because typically it's a picture of whoever you romance from the first one, I think, or whoever you currently romance. You have a picture of them on your desk. So I thought it was going to change, but instead it just down. So yeah, it was Tally, and I think depending on the mission, I mostly switched between Thane and Jack, but Thane was usually my number 2.
So you usually rolled into battle with Miranda and Garrus, and this, especially this time around, and this is why. I would use Miranda's overcharge, take out shields, and then I would send my little sphere of gravity that puts everyone floating into the air, and then I would tell Garrus, "Hey, shoot that motherfucker that's floating," and then rinse and repeat throughout a mission, and that's how I pretty much got through some difficult sections.
Yeah, like, I think Thane and Tally both had the same weapon layout. I think they both had shotgun and pistol. And I was like, no, Jack had shotgun and pistol. Thane, I think, had a submachine gun and a pistol. But once you level up Tally, she has like a little bot, like a little drone she can send out and just pick on everyone and annoy them. So that became very useful for me while I was like cloaking and going around and whatever. And Thane was just there to be cool and just say cryptic things.
I think it's cool that there's no wrong answer so far. Like, everybody can you can mix and match. There's always going to be a combination that works. Even like, we had some of the DLC characters in our parties at times, and it still fit. And I think the way the DLC characters, I know that like the PS3 version, this Legendary Edition that I think we played this time around, just kind of integrated all that stuff into the game without really telling you. But I think it still worked. It still felt just as impactful as the other ones. Like,
Kasumi was definitely there for me before I could recruit Tally. So like she was like my number one like right hand dude for a while. Yeah. And Zaid was there for a little bit too, because again he was just somebody I knew who wouldn't give lip and would just go in and just raise hell. And then Jack came along. I was like, well,
yeah,
retired Zaid for Jack.
Yeah, I guess that ties this right to the next question because my answer kind of relates to who you just said. But who would mission wise, and this could be. I guess we'll get into that in a second, but like loyalty or recruiting, what was like your favorite mission or like one of the main colony missions, I guess, but they kind of seem straightforward.
Right.
I liked Kasumi's loyalty mission, the kind of like puzzle solving heist to infiltrate that rich dude's place, and that was pretty good.
That's the one I like. If you were to ask me, like, hey, do you remember a mission from Mass Effect 2 before playing this? I would have said that one.
It's, like, that one stands out. Like, I think also just the environment's a lot brighter than the other. Like, there's a lot of things about that mission that stand out.
Yeah.
I also, it was, like, the first time you really have to fight the collectors. At that point, it made me, like, kind of flash back to the Flood in Halo, and I kind of really just wish that we could play Halo in third person. Like, that would have been... If we can do that, if somebody can make that happen, if 343 can, like, pull the camera back and make a third person Halo 1 through 5
I think there's
collection,
a mod for Infinite.
Huh?
I think there's a mod for Infinite where you can probably do that.
Yeah, if we can do that, I'd be
Activision just did it for Call of Duty. There's third person modes now.
Oh, wow.
I think
like Warzone too. There's usually a playlist for.
That's a game changer for the camera alone.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of just really liked seeing that threat, and I feel like we didn't really get to see a lot of them. Maybe there's like side missions and stuff I skipped, but I felt like the stuff where you fight the collectors was far fewer than the other main
That's
missions.
Really, I feel that too.
That's just their story beats, right?
I from what I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually against like Geth or like the mobsters, I forget I don't know, I can't remember all their like the Blood Pack, whatever the hell they're
right.
Yeah.
I think, Kasumi's mission stands out because I love me a good heist, in general. But I think it's weird. I like that one, but something it could have been just. I feel like I was missing just like a little bit more, for it to be something truly special. It was still cool, but like, I think Jack's mission is also very interesting, especially if you are spending the time to get to know her. Because she's very cold at first, and then you start to see her warm up to you, and she starts to get a little confused about things. And this is probably just me not understanding the game's dialogue, and like, the options you pick aren't necessarily what they say. So that tends to be a scrambler. Yeah. So I guess she thought I was like trying to lead her on or something, and I wasn't. I was just like, Jack just needs a genuine friend without ulterior motives. So I was trying to be that person, and I just couldn't exactly do that, unless like I just had to keep a distance to a certain point. But doing her mission, where like she wanted to go blow up that prison or whatever she was at, that also acquiring her was also very funny to me. Because like when she busted out and you're just following her trail of destruction, you just hear on the intercom just how many people have died or like what's going on. I'm like,
yeah, that was good.
She's insane. This is great.
I did not do that loyalty mission, and I knew I was gonna regret not doing it, and I did, but
yep,
for a number of reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what I end up thinking about is I didn't realize it was DLC till after I did it, but the Shadow Broker DLC felt pretty impactful in terms of story, because you learned that Liara was the one that saved you and gave you to Cerebus to bring you back to life. And I was like, oh, so Cerebus is here taking all the credit, when it was really Liara was the one.
Yeah, I guess you don't get that with I remember that, but that was locked behind Shadow Broker.
Right, and I was like, I guess this was, obviously an afterthought, or I don't know if it was cut content and they couldn't put it until later or what, but they definitely tried to force that romance too. Like, they really wanted Liara and Shepard to work. It was like, I was like, we never had history much in the first one. I don't know where you're getting this thing from where we had a thing. You were never in my crew.
Yeah.
So like, but it did make me care about her, but I was like, sorry, my heart's with another person. I can't do this. So she just stayed being a Shadow Broker. I didn't recruit her.
I wanna. It's ironically is the one that you guys had difficulties on. I do want to shout out that Samara loyalty mission, because that actually can impact your crew and who's on it. So as you two found out, and I didn't know you could, but you can fail that loyalty mission quite hard. Yep. But if you manage to get back to the apartment with Morinth, her daughter, you can turn the tables and actually kill Samara and bring Morinth into your crew.
I'm not sure if I would.
Yeah,
I don't think I would. Yeah, I think it would be a dramatic, like, renegade move to do it, but that is something that's possible. So if you ever look at guides and you see like Samara / Morinth, that's why they just kind of they fill in the plug on who is supposed to be where. Yeah. All right. Let's. So the suicide mission. You do everything in this game because you got to take out the collectors. AKA this what's called ends up being called the suicide mission because you have to go through this Omega 4 relay that no one has ever come back from, and you kind of have been told. You get told this a lot of times throughout the game. So the way the game ends up breaking down when you look at the nuts and bolts and the ones and twos, you are sent out to recruit your crew, which I guess you don't have to recruit everyone in those dossier missions. Like, you can skip them, but
Yeah,
you
only
are
need 8 people total.
So there's like 2 important types of missions besides the main ones that you kind of get dragged into. There are the dossier missions that recruit the people onto your ship. And then on top of that, there are the loyalty missions, which there's one for each character, and you go through them, and then they're loyal to you. And like when you do your crew selection screen, you'll see they're loyal because they'll have like a little circle underneath their feet. That is all important to how your suicide mission plays out. And you kind of, I don't know, did you guys get screwed up at all? Knowing, I think I told you ahead of time, so I don't know if it did, but like that Reaper IFF mission is a soft lock because if you start to do missions after that, more of the crew of the ship dies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had that. You also screwed me on something later on and got somebody killed.
I mean, I screwed you.
Oh, yeah.
Not my fault you initiated a mission before you were ready.
No, I'm talking about later on when we were all talking about Samara, and you were like, there's an obvious part where you should pick her. If you want her to live, choose somebody else. Did that, Samara died.
No. For Mark, because you both failed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I told you the right thing.
I mean,
she got carried away by flies in my final mission.
Oh shit!
So was it at the last? Was it the biotic shield part or the last?
Yeah,
stand?
the bubble part. Yeah, the bubble part.
Yeah, that told
That
you
was
not
the
to
obvious
choose her.
part. Yeah.
I didn't choose her. I chose Miranda to be the bubble person. So
yeah, Miranda was a wrong choice.
Yeah.
If you look at the guide.
Oh well, yeah, I know that
sent you.
now.
I didn't know that. I would have picked Miranda knowing, but no. Yeah, you picked wrong. Anyway,
you told me to not pick. I would have picked Samara to protect me.
Yeah, she would have died there anyway because she wasn't loyal to you.
That makes sense.
So yeah, you were kind of fucked there. You just had to choose the right person. Which Miranda ended up not being the right answer, evidently. I would have thought Miranda was, the way she was speaking at that moment. All right, yeah. Anyway, rewind. So you do the loyalty missions, and you get to the suicide mission, and this plays out a little bit different. I forgot how short the actual mission is. I forgot. It was like only 40 minutes, which I remember being like 2 hours. I remember that I feel like I remember this being this whole grand event, but it's not long at all. But the structure is a little bit different. It starts before you all even get through the Omega 4 relay, and you're all on the board, like in the conference area of the Normandy. And right away, like, you're given different decisions that you've never seen before, in terms of like how to lay out people for a mission. And the first 2 are, who do you want to be the leader of the second squad? And then who do you want to infiltrate through the ducts of the collector base? And this is where kind of who are you loyal with? How much did you invest in characters? This is where it starts playing, and also knowing your crew. Because if you pick the wrong person for a specific job, just because they're loyal to you doesn't mean that they make it out.
Thankfully, they kind of give you a breakdown of like expertise at that moment, because there were parts where it was like, I don't know, man. I don't know that guy. Should it be him? And then they give you a quick little like, this person is good at this, but very bad at this. Don't send them to do this, and they could probably do this. And I'm like, all right, then he can. Yeah.
So, yeah, it helps, but I also think like if you got to know your crew and you use them in different battle, like I think you kind of have a rough idea of who you can choose in those without having to necessarily read the bio.
I think it all makes sense, and I think the really cool thing about the way that end game is structured is like, the more loyal you, the player, are to the game world, the more loyal the more like I don't know, the better outcome your ending will have, right? Like,
Right.
if you put in the time, you are rewarded for it. If you rush through it for a podcast recording, you are punished for it.
Well,
Oh.
I kind of
yeah. So go ahead, Mark.
No, I was gonna say I felt like I was under the time crunch, but I was still able to kind of do everything.
I actually
Yeah.
am impressed with how you can streamline this game. Yeah, it's going to take some time, but
Yeah.
once you kind of understand how the structure of this game works, it's not that long of a game when you think like action RPG wise.
Yeah, 13 hours is my runtime, and that's like, it's pretty good. And I'm disappointed with some of my ending stuff, but I know exactly why it happened and what I could have done to reverse it, and I knew it in the moment too. So
I did all but one loyalty mission, and I was like 20 hours.
okay, yeah.
And I did the Shadow Broker DLC and the Overlord DLC. I did not do the Arrival one. I did not feel like doing it at that point. So yeah, no, I mean, and the only reason I didn't do that loyalty mission was because I forgot you have to initiate. Well, it was Legion. I fucked up with Legion. I forgot I had to turn them on.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
that was the only character I didn't even do, but I was also afraid of ruining Tally's romance, so I just never touched it.
Oh, fair. I didn't think about that. I actually don't know how that impacts that.
I don't think it does. I got very anxious with this last part.
Yeah, I already initiated the Reaper IFF, and I didn't want to lose anyone, but evidently you can do Legions, and it doesn't count against that timer I read. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, no, I already initiated. I was like, oh, fuck, Legion's up here. Because I walked by him in that Joker... in that Joker sequence, I walked right by him, just laying on that fucking bed. I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot about it.
I thought that was just supposed to be like that. I didn't
know.
No,
you go up and you activate him, and then he talks Geth to you, and...
Gotcha.
Yep, that's a whole thing. Anyway, so who did you all send into the vent?
Kasumi.
I had also picked Kasumi because I wanted Tally with me at all times.
Well, congratulations.
So if Kasumi died, I was okay with. At this point, all my crew, I don't care if they don't make it. Tally needs to make it.
I wasn't worried about Kasumi dying because I felt like she was the most equipped to make it through the... Like, she's stealthy, she has to sneak. As long as I can do my part and make it through, I think I felt like I'd be good, and I felt like knowing that I'd done her loyalty mission, I'd be good.
I guess this is like the big spoiler part if I didn't say it, or if you didn't get the hint earlier. But yeah, so congratulations. I also picked Kasumi. I think I picked Kasumi both times, actually, on both my playthroughs. But that is the correct answer alongside Tally or Legion. Bearing you did their loyalty missions, because if you choose those and you did not do their loyalty mission, they will die.
Yeah.
Who was your fire team? Your first fire team, I should say. The leader of your second squad going in.
The second squad, I think I sent Garrus forward.
I picked Jacob.
I picked Miranda. And we picked all three of the possible scenarios. Bearing they were loyal to you because you did their loyalty mission.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's like kind of like the first part. So you go through, you pick your people, and then you hit the Omega 4 relay, and it's kind of rocky to get to the actual collector base. Did you all have your shield upgrades? Did anyone die along the way there?
Does it say who could have died? Because somebody died, and I don't... Who?
Well, who died?
I don't... The first one I wrote down as dying was Tali, and I don't know if that was because I didn't upgrade. I upgraded some of the ship, but not all of the ship. But I don't remember if Tali died because of that or not.
There's three checks on the ship. There's an armor check, a shield check, and a weapons check. According to this flow chart I have here, if you did not pass the shield check, Tali is eligible to die.
Then that's probably what happened. I probably did. I know I upgraded like did two ship upgrades, and then I was tired of spinning planets around in circles for the 40th minute. So I said, I don't care what happens.
All right, so it could die in this order. So I'm assuming Kasumi. Well, no, because you sent her.
Yeah.
I don't know how this
Matt,
works.
there's no way we can go through every single path of this.
Man, it was going to get fun. All right, then who ended up dying in your fucking Suicide Squad?
Oh, all the way
mission?
down? You want the whole...
Yeah, may as well. I could probably figure out where they died at.
Tali died. Thane died. Samara got carried away by
Jesus.
flies as she screamed, "Thanks for nothing, Matt." Zaid got killed trying to lead people back to the ship. And then Jack died in the final mission because I did not do Jack's loyalty mission. So there was the moment where like you're all falling and reaching and whatever, and like me and Kasumi made it, but Jack just wouldn't hit the ground and splat. Didn't get up from that.
So that scene where you got to jump back onto the ship, you would think anybody with biotech powers would just fucking fly and carry anyone else onto the ship. Why do I gotta like jump for your hand? Lift me up, bro.
I assume that like your Shepard can die at that point, and that's okay. That looked
your
like
Shepard can die, and that is credits.
That's pretty cool.
So like, if I died, I wouldn't play 3. I would commit to my character and just stop. Right there.
Heck yeah. Oh, but now you're locked into 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good for you.
So
I want to know how that goes.
So the podcast again kind of dictated everything for me, so I was a little anxious. I wasn't sure what to expect with this mission. So I did have to kind of look it up, because if I'm doing all these loyalty missions, that means I got to have more of a kind of a good side to this character. So he kind of came around, right? Accepted a lot more people. He started to get more emotions now. He's kind of pulling a Dexter at this point. He's realizing he's more human than he realized, and started caring about people. So I did all the loyalty missions. I bought all the upgrades for the ship. Everyone lived. The part with the shield, I used Jack.
That's a plausible choice.
Right. Well, I kind of knew. So I did.
Oh,
see
right.
a
You said you looked it up. Duh. Yeah.
I saw a guide, but I didn't want to like fully rely on it. I just wanted to make sure that nothing I did affected Tali dying. So I didn't know, like, because I didn't do Samara's loyalty mission. I didn't know, like, if for some reason that just locked me into a scene where she just died for some reason. I just couldn't control it. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was one of those situations. Then I realized this was all very short.
We can talk after the podcast. You're going to be severely disappointed with how Mass Effect 3 deals with these
characters.
No,
well, I see now, but, like, I see how simple it all was. They kind of spell it out for you. Like, oh, pick this person for this thing, for this. I was like, okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these decisions are pretty straightforward. Like, if you chose the wrong person, or if you're not loyal to the right person, you chose, like, they die. The only thing I didn't get, I did not expect to lose anyone on that last stand thing. Well, Mark, who did you end up losing or dying? Mark chose that is. Flawless run. I didn't even get that. I had Zaid died and Legion.
Okay. I
had Zaid die because he led the second fire team. Or he was a distraction team or something like that.
Yeah.
Garrus was my second fire team. Morden sent the crew back to the ship.
I had Jacob fuck off because I didn't feel like seeing him anymore. But no, I didn't know like how I did not realize until looking at this chart. Like each member has a score based off their like a defense score, and then it takes all that squad and averages it out. I had no idea that's how that was, so I was actually kind of shocked when Legion died. But that was because Zaid, who's very high, had already died, and then I took Garrus with me, who was another scored high, so I didn't have a lot of high averages to balance it up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think I had Miranda and Tali with me at the very end, because there's apparently a little bit of extra dialogue if you have Miranda in your group.
Yes, because the decision at the end to keep the technology.
Yeah.
Oh, that only happens if you have Miranda?
Well, I think she adds on a bit when you're talking to the elusive man.
What did you all do? Did you destroy it or keep it?
I destroyed it in my proper playthrough. I don't see me playing Mass Effect 3. I'm just going to be honest, so I kept it this time. And, like, no one yelled at me for keeping it.
Yeah, like, my Shepard typically destroys everything. nothing remains. So
Yeah.
I had to be in character. I was like, this is going. We're getting rid of all of it.
I destroyed it specifically because of the elusive man's attitude. I was like, you know what? I never really liked you, but you're really like trying to be manipulative. Plus,
And,
it's getting
like-
real cigarette. I mean, obviously, real cigarette smoking man vibes from X-Files, where you know that guy had his reasons and his motives, but
And Miranda frickin' resigned too, right then and there.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I've only played Mass Effect 3 at one time, so I don't know how these decisions that end one impacts 3 in any way. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's Mass Effect 2. I feel like I fucked up and I over exaggerated this Suicide Squad, Suicide mission thing. As soon as I saw it was only like 40 minutes, I was like, oh motherfucker! I remember this being like a bigger deal.
Didn't know. Yeah, like I was under the impression whenever I read anything about your crew being affected, I thought it meant your party members as part of the crew. So I thought every time that you weren't, like every time you do a mission after the soft point of, you know, getting the IFF, I thought every time you did a mission in between doing that one to save them, a party member permanently died.
Oh no, yeah, it was just like referring to was it like Dr. Shakwa?
But I didn't know the crew was everyone.
Joker.
Yeah.
Who's the third? There's a third one.
There's like the chef and the people down in the engine room.
Engineering.
Yeah, but there's 3 specifically to call out to, and they don't say it in this flowchart. I don't think, or do they?
They might. I mean, that's all. I think that's all that's left
Yeah,
is either.
Yeah, I can't
engine
remember.
room
Anyway,
people
yeah,
or
but
whatever.
that's what that crew dying meant. I think I messed up and I did my first playthrough. I had someone die. Not everyone came out of that one alive because I did a mission.
Special question: did anyone buy a space hamster for their room?
No, I never did. If I ran by a shop, I would go in and buy everything. But early, I didn't have a bunch of credits. So if it was like an Omega or the Citadel, usually I did not backtrack to those places unless needed.
That might have been a benefit from 1 carried over to 2, is that you get a shit ton of money to start out with. And I bought fish for my aquarium, and then I bought a space hamster. And when you interact with him, he peeks out of this little box, looks at you, and goes back and hides. But he says squeak. But it's like a dude recorded their voice and pitch shifted it and just squeak. It's not an actual hamster sound. It's just straight up the word squeak.
Squeak Scolari or
what if they got Charlie Sheen to say squeak and they fucking modified his whole
either that or Emilio Estevez.
The elusive hamster.
It can only be one.
No, specifically, like I'm. It's Martin Sheen who's the elusive man, right? Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and his children, Charlie and Emilio.
Oh, yeah, but Charlie, because he's off his rocker. I think he's off his rocker at this point in life when this game comes out.
In 2010?
I feel like Tiger Blood was somewhere around college.
I don't know.
Or on the dawn of it. He's already doing Tiger Blood, we just don't know it yet.
He was on, he was on, basic TV at that point, though. I'm saying he's too high. I think you have a better shot cost-wise at getting Emilio than you do Charlie.
Oh, of course.
But it's time we rank this thing. I quite liked this game. I'm happy in the end that we played it back in June and July and August and September. Every month that I sat down to revisit it, I really was not loving it, but I'm really, really happy that I saw it through to the end. I think even like looking at the like shorthand notes I took throughout the year, seeing like the tone of my writing shift by the end, like it's pretty good.
I guarantee, I know for a fact that like had I not played this for this episode, my outcome would have been very differently. I would not have done all the loyalty missions. My Shepard probably would have died. For sure. Just had he not grown as a character. So this episode saved my Shepard. And I didn't realize how invested I would be with this. So I'm definitely going to see it through.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Mass Effect 3, you and me, because you might need a hand in that, and I would help if you want to help.
All right. So yeah, ranking this is definitely going to be interesting because this was a game that I did not know what to expect. I didn't have much interest when it first came out, and then turned around and ended up liking it quite a bit.
Am I the lowest of all of you here? I think.
I don't know. Where are you putting it?
The pacing is weird though.
I kind of have this like under Metal Gear.
Okay, yeah. I was below Deadly Premonition, above 9 hours, but then like I look at Tokyo Jungle, I look at Beautiful Joe, I look at Metal Gear, and yeah, I think honestly though, like
that's not a bad
I like
spot.
Get to Roo-Man over this. I like Mario Kart over this.
I do like this more than Double Dash, oddly enough.
I don't,
Okay.
because I like playing Double Dash. That's my main complaint with this. Is
I like Double Dash's tracks in Mario Kart 8.
well, it has Baby Park is in both those games. That's why they're the best tracks.
I like
But you're
SSX Tricky over this. But also, Advanced Buster Hawk Glaylancer is more fun to shoot things than Mass Effect 2.
Well, that depends on, I guess, what gun you had too, right?
Yeah, but in Glaylancer, you could just press a button to change which gun you had. You had to go all the way back to your ship to change it out. And even then, you couldn't get the one you wanted.
Shout out to I didn't know it was a DLC gun, but shout out to the freaking arc gun that shoots lightning between everyone.
Oh, that's sick. Cool. I did not get that.
Oh, I used the like the black hole one a lot.
I used it for that little bit, and then I used the nuke at the end.
Oh, that's good.
But the lightning one was my favorite.
Yeah, my biggest problem is the gameplay. It's not what I remember the gameplay being. It's very stiff, and yeah, if you kind of lock your character into something you don't like, you're locked in it. Like,
yeah.
I did not get an assault rifle in one of my character until I found like an upgrade thing 2/3 through the game. And
the dialogue choices don't always lead to what you think it's going to lead to. There's a lot of that stuff and actually like the input for dialogue, like that whole system, like it's a means to an end, but it's by no means a thing I like doing. I like the story overall. I like the characters. I like the relationships I built with them. I like the way that things played out. But that's the thing for Mass Effect 2 for me. I like the world and the setting and the expansiveness of it all. But yeah, playing it, not so much. Also, I hated that you just couldn't sprint endlessly.
It's funny because the first game actually
exploring too.
The first game gives you a meter of how much stamina you have, and then they just got rid of it entirely in this one, so you don't even know how long you have to run for.
Yeah, it was bad, but
yeah, I could see this being below Metal Gear. I can see it being below Gitaru to some degree.
I like it as the new 21.
21.
Right above X-Men, right below Glaylancer.
Yeah, I think my floor here is Star Fox Assault, so I'm right there.
You know, shoot, man, Star Fox Assault was fun to play.
Oh no, no! Come on. There were just some levels in that game that are just not fun.
That draw distance was a motherfucker.
All right.
Come on, those tank missions, especially the N ones, like that can go fuck off.
I do like that game, but
fine game. I cannot rank Star Fox Assault over Mass Effect 2.
I could. I do. Let it be known to the listener. Star Fox Assault is a better game than Mass Effect 2. However, for the purposes of Unity here on the freecheese.com,
I agree with it being 17 if that's still where Matt was thinking.
No, I actually kind of liked it just above X-Men 2.
Damn. Oh,
that's my spot too, man. I like it there.
Majority rule.
It's not about majority. Like, do you fully hate that it's there, Mark? Or
I just would rather. I'd rather play this than Tricky. I do like
Really?
Glade Lancer. Tricky just has too many menus.
Yeah,
Like,
but
by the
once
third-
you're in it, man.
I don't got the patience. By the third menu, I don't want to play it anymore. And then even when I am playing it, I suck at it. So
We talked about it. There's definitely a learning curve with that game, but once you're good at it, it's fun
Yeah.
as hell.
Yeah, Mass Effect doesn't get. There's no once you're good at it, right? Like it just is what it is.
Well, once your powers develop, it gets a little bit more fun. It's never satisfying, but
Yeah,
it's
because, like,
fun.
Key
'Cause, like,
right there, right? Like tricky,
Right.
you feel yourself.
Yeah,
getting
no, I'm-
better.
I'm not
You, the
arguing
player,
against
get
it, but-
better. Yeah,
like,
Just
I didn't
kinda
have any
playing devil's advocate.
powers for my character other than like warp ammo, and that warp ammo was a godsend. I just tore through everything. So
Yeah, the
Just lit
ammos
it
are
up.
pretty good. I definitely had the ammos in my first playthrough. I was definitely a soldier in my first playthrough. Coming back to me now. Yeah, no, I probably would, me personally would put it above Glade Lancer, but for the sake of how did you put it, Joe? Unity.
Unity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will go below Glade Lancer.
yeah,
Also, that last level in X-Men 2 can go fuck itself, unlike this game where the last level is the best level.
I still can't forgive Get to Room Man for the fucking start button. I'm still not over it. I'm still hung up on that.
It's gonna be December 2023. We're gonna be ranking our 70th game.
I mean, that is pretty bad design, but if you didn't have to pause, which 90% of the time you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not good. How's that feel? Seeing it there at old 21.
That's fine. 2 sci-fi related properties, a sequel.
I'd feel
Right
more
back to
okay if I didn't spend 30 plus hours of my life towards it. But
Yeah,
I'll get
but at
over
the
it.
same time, dude, we spent a lot more time on, like, well, maybe not. But I don't
I
know.
don't
I spent a
think
good
anything.
amount of time with Billy Hatcher, Sunset
Ugh.
Overdrive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, we've had some.
But this was a game I actually liked compared to those.
I have a nice little sci-fi section right there. Star Fox, Proteus, X-Men, Mass Effect, Advanced Thunderhawk. Like,
SSX.
So
Sure.
we don't like sci-fi that much, is what we're learning here. So
I don't know. We got Pikmin 3 up high. Quake is kind of sci-fi-ish.
that's true. Sin and Punishment's up there too. That's sci-fi.
Yeah.
that's sci-fi as hell. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And Rez.
Is that sci-fi? I don't even know what the hell that is.
I guess it's more cyberpunk.
It's more
but I
Tron.
It's the 90s. That's all that is.
Tron
And all
was its
this
own
is-
genre.
Is an episode of the Free Cheese Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us this week and talking Mass Effect 2. Be sure to come back next week for a little side quest where we are going to hang out and talk about what we're thankful for in video games. Take a break from the list for a bit. And yeah, we're coming back after next week's episode. We've only got 3 more games to rank. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you then. Until then, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Go save the galaxy or the universe. Whatever you can do, do it.